A big part of styling a website or web application involves working with colors. Whether assigning a color to a font, a background, or any other CSS property that accepts a color value, there are a few different ways in which a color can be assigned. First, we'll look at assigning a color with a predefined color. Here we have text that is by default black. We could change the color of the text by using the CSS property color and assigning the property any of the predefined values we see here. We can use any of these basic color names like blue, aqua, or maroon. Or we can use any of these extended color names like Dodger Blue, Forest Green, or Tomato. Next, we'll look at using RGB color values. RGB stands for red, green, blue, and to use a RGB color value, we define a color like this. With the first value here representing red, the second value here representing green, and the third value here representing blue. All three values must be within 0 and 255, with 0 being the minimum intensity and 255 being the maximum intensity. This RGB value will produce red since the red color value is set to maximum intensity at 255 and green and blue are set to 0. Similarly, this RGB value will produce green and this will produce blue. We can produce any color using different values here. Similar to RGB colors, hex color values also set the intensity values of red, green, and blue. The difference between RGB and hex values is RGB represents the three color values using an integer value between 0 and 255. With hex, the three colors are represented using hexadecimal values, or 0 through F, with 00 being the minimum intensity and FF being the maximum intensity. This hex value here will produce red since the red color value is set to maximum intensity at FF, and green and blue are set to 00. Similarly, this hex value will produce green, and this will produce blue. We can produce any color using different values here. We can also assign a color value using a HSL or hue saturation light color value, where the first value or hue is a value between 0 and 360, representing the degree on a traditional color wheel. The second value or saturation is a value between 0 and 100%, with 0 being grayscale and 100 being fully saturated. And the last value or light is a value between 0 and 100%, with 0% representing black and 100% representing white. Here are a couple colors with their HSL values to give you an idea of how HSL color values are utilized. The last two color values we will look at are RGBA and HSLA. We have already partially discussed these, as RGBA is just RGB with the A or alpha setting added, and HSLA is HSL with the alpha setting added. Now this alpha setting controls the opacity of the assigned color using a value between 0.0 and 1.0, with 0 being completely transparent and 1 being completely opaque. Here are a few, but definitely not all, the CSS properties that would take any variation of the color values we just discussed.